So you were told to uplift your sister in Christ, okay? But deep down, you were competing. You were comparing your bodies. You were comparing your roles. You were comparing your relationships. You were comparing your careers. Buckle up your seatbelt because we're diving into a very important topic in today's episode. So let's jump right in. So, marriage was the prize in church, okay, in religion. And women, Black women, became the opponents, all right? With marriage being programmed as being this prize, this thing to attain, to validate your womanhood, to validate your place in the world, it taught Black women, it taught you how to compare, okay? Now, in a recent video, I talk about how Black women were taught to prepare for marriage. They were taught to prepare for marriage. Marriage became the prize because it became what the Black woman aspired to be, okay? A Black woman's value in the church, in religion, was hinged on whether or not she was picked or whether or not she was chosen for marriage. Okay? So religion and the church became the place where women were literally put on display. I'm telling you what I know because I'm telling you what I experienced, all right? So women were put on display according to their availability, all right, for marriage, all right? And many times that availability or being worthy to be picked or being worthy to be married, that actually was not determined by the woman herself. She had no autonomy in that. That availability and that worthiness to be picked for marriage was actually determined by someone else, many times by another man or by a minister in the church or a pastor in the church or a preacher in a church or a so-called bishop, okay? Someone who carried, or a man who carried a high title, what we would call a high title in the church, all right? So let's keep going. So not only were Black women put on display, many times the women put themselves on display because they became so desperate, not necessarily desperate to be picked, but desperate to be validated. Because remember, validation equal marriage. Womanhood validation equaled marriage, all right? So many times Black women became desperate to have validity, to feel valued because she got picked, because she got chosen for marriage, right? And so I'm going somewhere with this, so stick with me. So all of those Bible stories, I can even remember the Bible stories, that were centered, or I won't even say centered, but they were Bible stories about women. And those Bible stories about those women, it was presented in a way that made the woman look as though she was male-centered and preparing herself to be picked. Always prepping for the male gaze, always prepping for male acceptance, always prepping for the male proposal, always staying ready for the male presence, when really that was not the case at all. Side note, do your own research on those scriptures around those women. Okay. So how did this brainwashing and programming disrupt the Black woman's identity? Well, let's talk about it. So I just said this, the Black woman's value became hinged on outside factors. So what do these outside factors look? Now, when I go through these examples, you have to remember that we're talking about energetics, we're talking about identity. So whatever you were programmed to be inside of a church building, you carried that out into society. So I'm going to repeat that. The Black woman's value became hinged on outside factors. So this looked like you striving and pushing for success to exhaustion. What did this look like? Obtaining all of these degrees, educational degrees. Nothing wrong with it. I have several degrees and certificates myself. But why were we doing that? Why did we think we had to strive to have all these letters behind our names? Adjusting your expression to make others feel comfortable. That is a form of hinging your value on outside factors, because anytime you feel you have to adjust who you are to make others feel comfortable, you are somehow looking for that other person's to validate you, to welcome you, to accept you. Those are examples, just a few, all right? Also, when we're talking about how the Black woman's value, how your value became hinged on outside factors, we have to talk about comparison. I mentioned this at the top of the video. Comparison is an outside, it's a silent killer. It is a silent thief of your identity as the original standard in civilization. Let me read you something. I'm going to read several things from this book. So again, Mami Wata, Volume 1, The Africa's Ancient Goddesses and Gods Unveiled. This was written by Vivian Hunter Hindrew. That was her birth name, also known as Mama Zagbe. All right. And in this volume, which is just one of the books she's written, she talks about uncovering our true identity as Black women, as the original woman. All right. So I'm going to read to you page 40, second paragraph, last sentence. It says, more specifically, the Mami Watas are linked to their African mothers' primary role as the first cultural and spiritual authors of civilization in Africa, and in turn throughout all the world. And you may be saying, well, you just got through talking about comparison. What does that have to do with comparison? Everything. Does this identity sound like a woman who compares herself to anything or anybody? No. Nothing about that says that your African ancient mothers held the essence of comparison. Absolutely not. So that's why I read it. So let's go to a second point. We have to talk about jealousy. So when your value as a Black woman becomes hinged on outside factors, it can cause you to be jealous of other Black women. Because you were in comparison mode, this morphed into jealousy toward other Black women. I saw it all the time, even as a little girl. I saw it in the adult women around me because all the women were so focused on being chosen, on being picked. And again, I don't believe it was necessarily about the marriage. It was just about someone validating them. So they competed. They were jealous of each other, talked down to each other. Many times it was hidden as jokes, when really it was nice, nasty. Let me read you something else. I'm reading from the same book, same volume, volume 1. Now I'm going to read you page 126. Okay. So this is about, well, let me just read it. On this page, it talks about your African mother's spiritual sessions, all right? Their rituals, their spells. And I'm going to read from the top, which talks about those events, those spiritual sessions, and then you'll hear what I'm talking about after I'm done. Okay. So, during these highly charged events led by her chief priestesses, her spirit would descend instantly, possessing hundreds, descending into ecstatic, uncontrollable transpossession. It was during these sacred possessions that healings, revelations, and exhilarating joy would permeate the air. It was during these moments as well when the great mommy would choose her male initiates. Do you hear that? It was during these moments as well as the great mommy would choose her male initiates. It is not in your blood to wait around for anything or anybody. You do the choosing. You see? So I'm going to read a little bit more. Many male prospects would prepare far in advance, undergoing long periods of prayer, fasting, and purification rituals in hopes that she would select them to be of service to her. I wanted you to see how it is in your essence to do the choosing. Okay, so that wipes out jealousy and comparison. No need. That is not a part of you. It is not a part of your true essence. You have learned to compare. You have been programmed to be jealous. So now we have to get to the part where we ask ourselves, how do I elevate? How do you elevate your identity beyond that programming? How do you detangle, untangle yourself from that consciousness? You first have to ask some questions. You have to ask yourself some questions. Give yourself your energy to ask yourself these questions. Where have you given your value? Where in your, or giving your value away? I'll ask this another way. Where in your life and in what ways have you outsourced your value? Only you can answer that. Next question. Where in your life do you still leave your value, your stamp of approval, your validation up to outside sources? I don't care if those sources are people, things, places. I don't care what it is. If it's outside of you and you're looking to it to validate you, to elevate you, it is an outside source. Next question. Are you in comparison mode? When you see another Black woman, what do you do? What do you feel in your body? Are you in comparison mode? Are you comparing your business, your clothes, your hair, your career, your money? Comparison is actually very subtle. So this awareness, if that is there, it takes you getting into practice to become aware of what's happening within you and to be honest. Next question. Whose life are you envious of? Who are you jealous of? If you are looking at another saying, I wish I lived like that, or I want what she has, that's a form of jealousy. It's not a bad thing. Don't ignore the jealousy. Don't pretend like it's there. I'm going to say this, might shock you, but welcome the jealousy. Welcome it in. Say, oh, okay, jealousy, I see you. What is this jealousy showing me? Examine it. What is it do you think that you want about this other woman's life? What do you like? Based on what you see, what do you think you like about this woman's life? How do you think you would feel if you had this woman's life? If you had what this woman had? If your life was similar, how do you think you would feel? If you were living the same experiences that you see this other woman living, how would that make you feel? Gift yourself the time to answer those questions. What is that going to do for you? Well, going through the exercise is essential to you reclaiming your identity. Because remember, nothing that I read, those two passages that I read, that did not describe a woman who was jealous. It didn't describe a woman who was leaving her validation to outside sources. What I read was about a woman who knows her identity, to know that she carries cosmic order, to know that she is cosmic order. You're going to, answering those questions, you are going to reclaim that identity. You're going to reclaim that energy. So I talk about nervous system upgrades all the time and getting the religious programming out of your nervous system. This examination, these questions, this is a part of it. All right. And here is a side note before we end. If you attempt to move into spiritual practices influenced by the ancient wisdom that you carry without doing this nervous system work, it will be the same. You can equate that to you cleaning up, having a clean house, you cleaning up your house, you taking the time to clean your house, but yet there's trash bags full of trash in your closets. That's what will happen. That's on the same line. Is if you move, if you continue, and not just moving into other spiritual practices, but just moving through in life thinking in your mind that you're liberated from the religious programming, yet that programming is still operating in your nervous system. So on the surface, it can look like you're liberated. It can look like your energy is cleared, but it's not, because that programming is still influencing your essence and how you exist in the world. All right. So let me know what your takeaways are from this video. Also, I am going to be opening up a membership. It will be on a private platform where I will go live. We will have live interactions. If you notice, very rarely have I gone live on YouTube. I've never gone live on social media and never will. But I want to use that private platform to go live, to give you live breathing sessions, live meditations, live readings, live rituals. Okay. You'll have access to the books that I've written in ebook form. You'll have access to a lot of times, well, all the time, I should say, I have an outline, okay, for my episodes. And these get typed up. So it turns into a newsletter. You'll have access to those. What else? We'll have live Q&As. We'll have live workshops. So get on the email list so that you can be the first to know when that membership opens and when you can enroll. Okay. Go to unleashedalchemy.com. Also, when you sign up right now, you can get access to a complimentary 5-part mini series that I did called From Religion to Alchemy. That's a very good first step in you unraveling your nervous system from that programming, from those constructs, okay? From those stories that don't even belong to you. All right. So let me know what your takeaways are in the comments. Also, if you have not started listening to Unleashed Alchemy on every podcasting network out there, do that today. All right. And if you are new here and you haven't subscribed, but you've been watching videos, hit the subscribe button. Yes, that does help the channel. All right. Until next time, you are sovereign. You are the original woman.